Good Saturday morning, and welcome back to Watchdog News, which is part of Watchdog Ministries. It's Jared Campbell. So welcome back, everyone. So it's going to be a really quick video, an update to what's going on with Ukraine. So Ukraine, a no-win position. So they're in a no-win position in this evolving geopolitical landscape. Yesterday, the public confrontation between U.S. President Donald Trump and Ukrainian President Zelensky has highlighted the deepening rift in the U.S. Ukraine relations. The geopolitical shift, underscored by the warming ties between Washington and Moscow, places Ukraine in a precarious and increasingly untenable position. This report examines Ukraine's strategic disadvantages using insights from the RAND reports and international sources, assessing the broader implications of its current trajectory. The weakening Western support for Ukraine. The recent Trump-Zelensky meeting illustrated the diminishing U.S. commitment to Ukraine. Trump's demand for gratitude in exchange for military aid is what made Zelensky upset, as if he thought Trump was failing to condemn Russia's invasion, signal a strategic pivot. The RAND report's assessment of U.S. military engagements highlights that prolonged foreign interventions without a clear strategic outcome often lead to reduced commitment and eventual withdrawal of support. Ukraine's reliance on U.S. aid without strong guarantees of a long-term backing leaves it vulnerable to shifting political winds in Washington. European leaders have rushed to express solidarity with Ukraine, but their support remains largely symbolic. The European Union lacks the unified military strength to offset a significant U.S. withdrawal, further exacerbating Ukraine's strategic vulnerability. As observed in the RAND report's research on stability operations, coalition-based support is often fragile and dependent on American leadership. Moscow's strategic leverage. From a military standpoint, Ukraine is locked in a war of attrition that plays to Russia's strengths. The RAND report on cost-imposing measures against Russia acknowledges that military aid to Ukraine could increase the cost of Russian aggression, but warns of potential escalations. With the U.S. appearing less willing to sustain its military assistance indefinitely, Ukraine faces a scenario where its adversaries is both strategically patient and better resourced. The recent U.S.-Russia meeting in Saudi Arabia, conducted without Ukraine's participation, reinforced Ukraine's diminishing agency in negotiations over its own future. The RAND report studies on insurgency and counterinsurgency emphasize the necessity of local actors having a decisive role in conflict resolution to prevent long-term instability. The exclusion of Ukraine from such discussions signals that major geopolitical players may seek a resolution that benefit their interests over Kiev's. Economic and political strain beyond military concerns. Ukraine's economic resilience is under strain. The war has severely impacted its industrial and agricultural production, leading to significant economic contraction. The RAND reports on strategies to overextend and unbalance Russia notes that economic sanctions have played a role in weakening Russia, but also warns of their secondary effects on neighboring economies, including Ukraine. That is huge, because Ukraine is in a no-win situation. The domestic political landscape in Ukraine is also fragile. Zelensky's leadership, once bolstered by strong public support, is now facing growing dissent and uncertainty over international backing. Historically, RAND report analysis of counterinsurgency efforts suggests that wavering public confidence in national leadership during prolonged conflicts often leads to political instability and weakened governance. Let me say that again. The RAND report analysis, these think tanks, of counterinsurgency efforts suggests that wavering public confidence in national leadership during prolonged conflicts often leads to political instability and weakened governance. What is the path forward? So limited strategic options. Given the current geopolitical dynamics, Ukraine's options are increasingly limited. Military escalation. Without sustained Western support, Ukraine's ability to launch successful counteroffensives will diminish, making military escalation a high-risk strategy. Negotiated settlements. While a ceasefire or negotiated peace could preserve Ukrainian sovereignty, any deal mediated without Kiev's full involvement risks compromising its territorial integrity. Increase European reliance. Europe could attempt to fill the void left by the U.S., but without significant military commitments, such an approach remains symbolic at best. What is my conclusion? Ukraine finds itself in a strategically disadvantaged position, where external support is one. Military pressure is mounting, and economic and political strains are growing. The RAND reports and international analysis highlight that Ukraine's predicament mirrors other proactive conflicts, where the lack of decisive external backing often leads to stalemate or unfavorable settlements. Unless Kiev can secure firm long-term commitments from its allies, it risks remaining in an unwinnable scenario, facing continued Russian aggression with diminishing resources to resist effectively. That's all I have this morning. Throughout the weekend, I'm going to stay on what's going on with Russia and Ukraine. For those of you who follow my Bible stuff, I'm going to start all that back up again next week. So through the weekend, I'm going to continue discussion with Ukraine. I'm going to continue pulling out the research that I have, right? So when you listen to what I'm saying. And as objectively as I'm saying it, Ukraine is in a no-win situation. Ukraine was never meant to win this war. It was all about weakening Russia, right? Locking Russia into a war of attrition, right? With both NATO and the EU. Imagine that. Imagine being in a no-win situation. Think about that. I've been saying this for over 2 years, that Ukraine is in a no-win situation. Finally, it seems like the world is waking up to what I've known for 2 years now. Many of you are waking up to this fact. You've been asleep, not paying attention, but now you know how big Ukraine really is and how it can draw the U.S. into a war, into a greater war. Ask yourself, are you ready for U.S. soldiers to die on Ukrainian soil? Are you? Or do you know how corrupt Ukraine really is? I do. And that's all I have. This is Jerry Wesley Campbell. This is Watchdog News Report, part of Watchdog Ministries. I love you all so much. Hope you enjoyed this really quick video. I will be back later today and throughout the weekend. Have a very blessed day. I'm out.